In this video, I'm going to show you the tiny house that I lived in for almost 2 years. I lived in there, I worked in there, I spent a lot of time, and so I'm going to show you what it looked like, how I made use of all the space, and then why I no longer live there. But before we get into all that, let's go ahead and take a look at it. As you can see, there wasn't a ton of space or storage to work with in the kitchen, but when I did cook, which wasn't much, it always felt like just enough space. The living room was a perfect space for my couch, coffee table, and 49-inch TV. I thought it was really cozy and I loved spending time in there. The aquarium was a cool but short-lived idea. It caused a lot of excess humidity and odor in the house, even with a dehumidifier, so I got rid of that after a little while. Now, I started out with my bed up in the loft and my desk in the bedroom when I moved in here, but I quickly got tired of crawling up and down the ladder into the loft since I'm 6'3", so I made the room work for sleeping and working. The bathroom is pretty small, but enough room, even for someone as tall as me. It helped that my dad made the ceiling a little bit taller above the shower so that the shower head wasn't at my chest, which would have sucked. The open loft ended up being storage for things that I would eventually need to use or things that I needed to pull down somewhat often. And that's about it. There's not a lot to show, but that's about how it was up until I moved out. And I loved living there. Super easy to clean, and it was just really cozy and perfect for just me. And that brings me to why I moved. If you haven't seen any of my other videos, I rented the tiny house from my parents, and it was kind of like my first journey on my own, living there by myself, and it really helped me to have a great start to life out on my own. But a lot has changed since I moved in there almost 2 years ago. As of November 2020, I'm a married man now. And as much as my wife loved spending time in the tiny house throughout our dating relationship, when it came to moving in after the wedding day, she wasn't very fond of the idea of living there. And I totally understood, it's a commitment to live that close to somebody. If you're not 100% sure that you could do it in that small of a space, or if you're okay with that, especially in your first year of marriage, so I totally understood. So we decided to get an apartment for a year until we decide where and what we want to move into later on down the road. We found one at a really good price that we really liked in Tulsa, and so now we're both experiencing city life for the first time in our entire lives. Both of us have lived in the country, and so this is our first time living in the metro, I guess you could say. And we're loving this new chapter of our lives, but we're pretty sure we're not going to stay here past our lease ending. We'll probably move back to the suburbs or to closer to the country when our lease is up here in the apartment. And in case you're wondering, my parents had the tiny house rented out like a week after I moved out, I think. I'm pretty sure there was like a line of people wanting to live there. And that brings me to a question with this YouTube channel, because I have a few thousand of you that have subscribed and you've wanted to see more tiny house content, but I don't live in a tiny house anymore. But I do still really love and support the idea of tiny house living. And I still think it's a really cool concept, even though it's not really for this season of my life right now. And I really don't want to just delete this channel or the videos on it, because they're still getting views and people are still commenting and saying they're getting inspiration from seeing my older content, and whether they want to live in a tiny house or maybe they're just watching it for the fun of it, people are still really liking them. So I don't want to just take the channel down, and I don't want to leave it up if I'm not gonna keep creating anything about tiny houses, I guess. So I don't know, I wanted to make this video, put some feelers out, and see if people are still kind of interested in me making these kinds of videos. I'm not gonna promise any kind of uploading schedule or that I'm gonna be uploading at all, really. I'm not gonna make any promises. I think it's an idea, and it's a fun idea to reach out to some people that have tiny house projects and make videos about how they did theirs. And I don't know, I just think it'd be fun to document other people's tiny house journeys and how they built their tiny houses. And so maybe I'll start with the second one that my dad has, and maybe go from there. Maybe I will travel around the Tulsa area and see what else is going on in the tiny house world out here. But if you'd like to see me make some fun videos detailing other people's tiny house builds, Let me know with a like and a comment down below. And please feel free to ask me any questions about what life was like living in that tiny house for those 2 years that I was there. What are the pros and the cons? I mean, I'd love to answer any questions that you have about tiny house living if you're someone that's interested in getting into it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this video gave you some inspiration, or that you at least found some joy watching it.